Catus, Maximus here. These things have... This is a free promotional product I should start off with. From Vevor. Appreciate them sending it to me. I'm cheap, and so when companies want to send me at least stuff that would be cool to try out, like a self-refrigerated little 2-quart ice cream maker, I'll give it a shot. There are horizontal and vertical versions of this. Vertical version's a little bit more expensive. And from looking online, these horizontal ones are actually a little bit more proven. There's just more space between the compressor and the mixing motor and electronics. They seem to be just a little bit more reliable than the vertical units. As far as this style, and what's really distinctive is this wide open venting right here in the front. And the mixing motor's right there. It does have a cooling fan on it. Second fan for the radiator in the back. All stainless steel. But there seems to be basically, there's like a Whitner version, which has the buttons vertically this way, and then to adjust the time, you have to actually press buttons. There's this Vevor one with the dial, which I actually like the most. And then there's like a little bit more premium one that's like $250 or $300 from some other vendor. It has a different style top and like a touch screen, but I think the dial is about the best because on these you can, of course, make ice cream, pre-chill it, or just have it do the mixing, pre-mixing for you. And what's nice, one thing people haven't mentioned in other reviews, regardless if it's the Vevor or other models, is these are like the default times. An hour for making ice cream, half an hour to pre-chill, and like 10 minutes of pre-mixing. But you can adjust it anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. And this is why I like the dial, because it's just real easy to use. If we do a mixing only and we start it, what I also like is you can come and check the consistency of the ice cream or mixing while it's going. And if it's not quite good enough, you can just dial in some more minutes. Or dial back some minutes. And actually that's kind of a cool feature, being able to adjust that. What isn't cool is it's kind of stuck in the mode, so if you want to finish mixing, it won't let you, you have to turn it on and off again. I don't know what's up with that. It's a little programming error. Another thing to note, radiators in the back. Make sure you have plenty of space behind the unit. People like to shove this up against the wall and then wonder why it has poor performance. You need to have airflow through that condenser. This has a refrigerant compressor in it, which the compressor has an oil bath. When these things are shipped, they always end up on their side. This is the same thing with refrigerators, air conditioners, anything that uses a compressor to heat or cool. It would be a heat pump if it was a compressor to heat. Oil ends up in those pipes, and so if you just get this at your front door and immediately start using it, the oil's very thick, will be stuck in the radiator, and the motor will actually run dry. And it's an insidious kind of damage because it'll still work, but you'll wonder why the pump failed, after only using it 50 times, or even, 30 times or 100 times. And it's because all that initial damage of you not letting it sit. It's recommended to let them sit for 24 hours flat before using them. Usually you don't have to do that much, 6-10 hours, but it really needs to be all day for that oil to seep down into the pump so that there's enough of it to prevent the premature wear. 2-quart bowl, simple acrylic lid, little flip makes it easy. This is surprisingly enough that the 1/4-inch hex or 6.35 millimeter drive, which is kind of interesting. Asymmetric scoop, and we can even see this side is smooth, this side has a little notch, so real tight fitting. There's actually an air suction, a tight fit between this bowl. Pretty interesting, but I actually like that because it indicates that the bowl is contacting the cold surface. It's a refrigerator, or it's a freezer, but the freezer coils are just wrapped around this bin. Here's our drive. See how it sounds. And the compressors, what you'll hear is this mixing motor. You won't hear the compressor. And that's all it does, go round and round. So basically 4 cups of material because once it starts turning into ice cream, air gets trapped into it, plus the ice crystals expand. And so it'll be pretty, low down the bowl, but it'll really start to push its way up. I will mention that they, have made some, and that thing is tight, mitigations for that. There's actually a silicone seal right here, so if it does spill over, you can at least clean out the bowl. The hardest thing will be to clean out that little area down by the drive. The tub has these tabs for the handle. Those tabs are what go in these spaces, so those act as retention dogs to keep the bowl from spinning around. And a little bushing at the top of the lid to help support the mixer. I'm not a cook. I'm going to use 2 cups of half and half a cup of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of orange extract, vanilla extract, and salt. So I had this terrible issue with this thing squeaking pretty badly. And it sounded just like it was coming somewhere out of the gearbox there. But it was actually coming from the bottom of the bowl. There's a special seal to prevent any of the milk and food from getting out of the bowl. It's this whole assembly. You can take it apart. People who do automotive work will be familiar with the seals that have a really fine spring that goes around the lip of the seal to help hold it tight. There is a very small diameter spring assisted seal in the bottom of this, and when I took it apart and pulled out the little drive shaft, you could see the part of the spring had popped up over the top of the seal, and then everything had been put together, kind of squishing the spring. I mean, it was making, well, it was a periodic squeal, and it was surprisingly piercing and loud. Pop that spring back into place, and now it works great. And now, if you really let it go, it actually gets the ice cream reasonably thick. Not very grainy at all. I can tell you this, after it got finished, where the rotor came to a halt, as soon as you hear it bogging down, you'll want to pull out the ice cream. But some people's freezers don't get quite as cold as others. This thing gets pretty cold. And what I found is you just clean out the ice cream, put it back in the bowl, and it's in the middle here. It's a little bit soft, but this thing gets cold, so you can harden it up just using this unit, and just put it on the cooling mode and let it sit in there for an hour, and it'll actually become pretty rigid ice cream. Overall, I think it's pretty convenient to be able to make ice cream quite like this, and any other foods where you need some kind of something that's cold and frozen. I guess making custards, I don't know anything about cooking, but thought this would be an easy way to make ice cream in the summer. Although dry ice and regular ice and salt and those old bucket style ice cream makers are pretty good, this really isn't that bad at all. Especially if you really let it stir and break up those ice crystals.